It's as safe as you make it, to be honest. So let's talk anatomy, and then when you have an understanding of the anatomy, then it's a little bit easier to understand what's safe and what isn't safe. So you've got the urethra, where the sound is passed through, say the penis, and you've got a little tube that goes up, and then you're going to get towards the base of the penis and you're going to hit something that's resistant, and that is the prostate. That's a gland that surrounds the urethra and sits directly underneath the bladder. So the bladder can be the size of, say, a decent grapefruit, and underneath that is the prostate, about the size of a walnut. And the bladder drains straight through the middle of the prostate. So with sounding, what you're achieving is that you are getting unusual sensations that, we generally don't put objects up our urethras. So it's an unusual sensation. Anyone who's been in hospital and had a catheter, you'll know that it's an unusual sensation. And then there is stimulation of the prostate as the device either bumps onto the prostate or through the prostate. What I would say is very, very gentle sounding. Could be okay, but there's always going to be a risk associated with that. So it's very important that you read your body if you're doing it to yourself, or you really have excellent communication with your partner if you're doing it to them. The other important thing to remember is that the bladder and the prostate are two areas of the body that are sterile. So it's very, very important that you do not introduce bacteria into that area, because it can cause infection and it can cause inflammation. I did mention that the prostate is a little bit like a walnut, and in many ways it is, because it has a really tough outer lining. If it swells, that center part has got nowhere to go. It can't swell outwards, so it can only swell inwards. Swelling inwards means that that tube that drains the bladder gets thinner and thinner and thinner. So if you've been having some sounding play and you're finding it difficult to pee, that's probably because of swelling in the prostate. And it's worth, if you aren't able to pee for an hour or so and it's getting uncomfortable, you may need a catheter to be put in. Medically, if after you've been playing, you notice that there's any bleeding, either that in the urine or in your semen, then it's very important. Just stop sounding, let it settle down, and if the bleeding isn't slowing or stopping after an hour or so, go and say good day to somebody in the emergency department. And finally, after a session of sounding, say 2 or 3 days later, you're feeling unwell, you're finding it difficult to pee, or you're finding that you're peeing really frequently, like every hour you're going to pee, but the stream is pathetic. It's like a dribbly old tap. That could be signs of an infection in the prostate. So please go and have a chat with your kink-friendly doctor, get a urine test, and just make sure that there's no signs of infection or damage in the prostate after your play. Let's start with materials that aren't safe for sounding. I've worked in enough emergency departments to be able to give you these answers. Pens, knitting needles, screwdrivers, crayons, wooden takeaway shop chopsticks. These are not designed for insertion into your penis. Fancy that, hey? Please, if you're going to do sounding, I recommend you use one of the following: a metal sound that is of medical grade surgical steel, silicone that is made of at least platinum grade silicone. People like Square Peg Toys make them, but there's a number of manufacturers of silicone sounds. And the other thing is actual catheters. They're really designed to go up in there. That said, be really aware, avoid latex if you're doing sounding, just in case the person that you're playing with is allergic to latex. So the good thing about these three things, steel, silicone, and actual catheters, is that they can be sterilized. Actual catheters come with their own sterilizing kit, little tablets, and you fill them with water and put them inside there. But if you don't have access to that, here's some really good tips. Milton is a sterilizing agent that is used to clean babies' bottles. And it is perfect for sterilizing toys, in particular catheters as well as sounds. Get a little Tupperware container that has enough space to fit the toy and some water. Put that in there and then put the right amount of Milton, whether that you're using the liquid or the tablets, and sterilize them. After you've used the sterilizing solution for say 20 minutes, take them out, dry them with a paper towel and seal them away inside a Ziploc bag, and that will prevent dust or germs getting onto them. Before you use the sound as well, get some alcohol swabs and wipe down the sound very, very carefully and allow it to air dry again on a paper towel. Finally, when it comes to the lubricant that you are going to be using on the sound to get it into the urethra, don't use saliva. Your mouth is full of bacteria. That's not an ideal lubricant. Get some sterile lubricant sachets. You can get the little KY ones that are medically designed, and they've been sterilized and there's no bugs inside there, and that will greatly reduce the chance of you introducing bugs into the prostate or into the bladder.